you probably know how to use the word to know in English. You might also know that in German there are two different words for to know. Wissen and kennen. After watching this video, you will know the difference between them. You will know when to use which. And as a bonus, you will also learn the difference between Wissen von and Wissen über, as well as a few other things. Welcome once again to Mixed Languages. I'm Mick. Here you learn to speak it for real. But if you really want to speak it for real, it's not enough just to watch somebody talk about it. You also need to do some work yourself. That's why in this video, there's going to be some homework for you in the end of the video. So in German we have kennen and wissen. Do you know this guy? And do you know who this guy is? Sounds like it's kind of the same idea, but actually in German you would use these two different words in these two different sentences. Kennst du den hier? Kennst du den hier? Do you know this guy? Weißt du, wer das hier ist? Weißt du, wer Spider-Man ist? So, why do we use two different words here? We can break it down in two different ways. We have a semantic difference, a difference in meaning, and we have a grammatical difference. Let's look at the semantic one first. So, the difference in meaning here is, kennst du den hier? We are here asking if you are familiar with him by experience, if you have heard about him. Whereas when we say, weißt du, wer das hier ist? We are going after information, a piece of mental information. Do you know this piece of mental information? Who is this guy? Right? So that's a semantic difference. Let's also look at some English words here. We have wisdom, wizard, wise. Maybe you see how these are related to wissen. What is a wise person? What is wisdom? Is it knowing a lot of people, knowing a lot of places, or knowing how to solve problems, having a lot of information in your head? That is wise, right? So wissen and wisdom are related. And also interesting word, Wissenschaft. Wissenschaft means science. Science actually also means the same. It comes from Latin, scire, which means to know in the sense of wissen, right? So they have the same roots, just from different languages. And the grammatical difference is that we have the object. We have to look at the object of these words. What is then an object? Okay. In English, for example, do you know this guy? Know is the verb and this guy is the object. Do you know who this guy is? This whole part, who this guy is the grammatical object. So when we look at the word kennen, we have always a grammatical object being a noun phrase, or a pronoun. A noun phrase could be this guy, it could be Spider-Man, it could be the black dog that I am looking at right now. This whole thing is one noun phrase with dog being the kernel, kind of the main part of it. So kennen always has a noun phrase or a pronoun, mich, dich, me, you, right? Whereas wissen normally has a subclause as the object. Who this guy is, wer das hier ist, wer dieser Typ ist, wer Spider-Man ist a subclause. And a subclause is kind of easy to identify. It always includes a verb, in this case is or ist. Whereas in the dog that I am looking at right now also includes a verb, right? Yeah, but the main part is still dog, and then that I'm looking at right now is just a kind of, that's a subclause in itself, but it's part of the noun phrase. So kennen, noun phrase, pronoun, wissen, subclause. And now we could ask about where he lives. Do you know his address? Or do you know where he lives? One of them is kennen, the other one is wissen again. Kennst du seine Adresse? Weißt du, wo wohnt? And why is that again? Let's again analyze it from the two points of view. First, the grammatical one. kennst du seine Adresse? Seine Adresse is a noun phrase, kennen. And weißt du, wo er wohnt? Wo er wohnt is a subclause, wissen. And from the semantic point of view, we have weißt du, wo er wohnt? Wo er wohnt is a piece of information, a piece of mental information. Whereas kennst du seine Adresse is something that we're familiar with. Again, we're familiar with this address. But here we have to actually talk about the fact that we can also say weißt du seine Adresse? Weißt du seine Adresse? Kennst du seine Adresse? Both are equally correct. And there's a small kind of a slight difference between the meaning, where weißt du seine Adresse is more like, do you know this information of where he lives? And kennst du seine Adresse could be more like, oh, maybe you have already been there, maybe he has shown you or something. Let's look at another example where we have both wissen and kennen as an option. Ich weiß einen Weg, ich kenne einen Weg. I know a way out of here, for example. Ich weiß einen Weg, ich kenne einen Weg. So, ich weiß einen Weg is, again, the idea is that I know it, I know the information that there is a way. I probably also know the way itself, but ich kenne einen Weg is more about that I actually am familiar with the way. I might have walked it before. I can also say, ich kenne den Weg. To make clear, I know this way. I know that there is no McDonald's on the way, whatever. Ich kenne den Weg. Next thing to know about, we have wissen über and wissen von. We also have wissen but that's kind of an old, kind of archaic form that we don't use so much in modern German. So we have wissen über, wissen von, and we can look at these two sentences. Was weißt du vom Leben? And was weißt du über das Leben? The first one, was weißt du vom Leben? First of all, we need to see that it's created with dative. The case that comes after the preposition von is dative. Was weißt du vom Leben? And was weißt du über das Leben? Here we have accusative. So, meaning-wise, was weißt du vom Leben? No, let's start with was weißt du über das Leben. Was weißt du über is kind of related to the wissen itself. It's like mentally, what knowledge do you have about life? Maybe about chemically, biologically, how does life function? Was weißt du über das Leben? Whereas, was weißt du vom Leben is more linked in a way to kennen, in the meaning at least. What do you know about life? How much have you experienced to be able to talk to me about life here? Right? Was weißt du über das Leben? Was weißt du vom Leben? Next thing, to get to know somebody, kennenlernen. Kennenlernen, okay? Example, ich habe gestern eine richtig interessante Frau kennengelernt. Ich habe gestern eine richtig interessante Frau kennengelernt. Next topic, to know something as an ability. Do you know English, for example? Do you know German? Do you know any German? Here we would not use nor kennen nor wissen. Here we would use something different. We would use, for example, kannst du Deutsch? Kannst du Deutsch? Sprichst du Deutsch? Right? We would avoid using these two other words. Whereas if we have, do you know how to swim? We have a subclause, how to swim, and we can again use wissen. Weißt du, wie man schwimmt? Weißt du, wie man schwimmt? Or we could of course also again use here, kannst du schwimmen, to talk about the same idea. So, as I talked about in the beginning, if you really want to learn something, you also have to make an effort, you have to work on your own. Now you're going to see some sentences here on the screen, and if you want to participate, which I recommend totally, I would ask you to write in the comments these sentences in a translated form. And to make it more structured, I will make comments under the video. I'll make a comment for sentence number 1, one for sentence number 2, and so on. And then we can kind of compare what we all wrote, and I will of course also come in and help you. And I really, really hope to see a lot of you guys participating, because you're doing it for your own sake, to learn, to become better. And you have here a professional teacher who will correct your mistakes. So thanks for watching, like the video, subscribe, share the video, see ya.